Hello, I saw your question in the email. You're trying to understand, how to factor this. Your first question is, why is this the correct way and this is not the correct way? And so, I don't know if you're familiar with FOIL, F-O-I-L, but when you're multiplying two binomials, if you FOIL it, it's one way to multiply two binomials. So you multiply the first terms, and that gives you 3x squared. Multiply the outer terms, which is the O, be minus 6x. Multiply the inner terms, that's minus 7x. Then multiply the last terms, that's minus 7 times minus 2, that's plus 14. F-O-I-L, first, outer, inner, last. Just a technique for multiplying two binomials. If you combine these two terms, that's negative 13x. You see, and this matches that. What you're saying is, hey, shouldn't it factor this way? Well, if you multiply the first terms, you need get 3x squared, which matches. If you multiply the last terms, you get 14, which matches. It's the inner and the outer part where things go haywire. If you multiply the outer part, that's 3x times negative 7, that's negative 21x. Multiply the inner, that's negative 2x. You combine those, that's negative 23x. We want negative 13x. And so the order of the numbers does matter. Okay, so that was your first question. Why isn't this okay? Well, if you multiply it just doesn't work. Okay, so I'm coming down here, how do we factor this? So there's actually a number of techniques for factoring this. I'm just going along with the book. They factor by what's called grouping. And when this coefficient here is not 1, that's when things get a lot more complicated. So when this one's not 1, you take it 3, you multiply it by the constant 14, you get 42. So you're looking for a product of 42, then you take the middle feller, it's negative 13. So you need a product of 42 and a sum that's negative 13. So the two numbers you're looking for are negative. So I just start listing negative factors of 42. And I'm looking for the pair whose sum's negative 13. And a lot of times it's the closest pair. Negative 6 times negative 7, product would be 42, and its sum would be negative 13. So what you do is you take the negative 13x and you break it into that two parts, the negative 6x and the negative 7x. This sum is negative 13x. And then you want to factor out the common factor on the first pair and the common factor on the second pair. So these first pair of terms each have a 3x in common. 3x times x would be 3x squared. 3x times 2 would be 6x. These both have a 7 in common, actually take a minus 7. Minus 7 times x is minus 7x. Minus 7 times negative 2 is positive 14. So here I factored a 3x, that leaves me with x minus 2. If you distributed that, you'd come right back up here. Then I factored a negative 7 here, leaving me with x minus 2. Again, if you distribute that, you'd come right back here. Negative 7 times x would be negative 7x. Negative 7 times negative 2 would be a plus 14. And now there's one more step you need to factor again. So, each of these have the x minus 2 here, so I actually factor it to the right. And I'm left with 3x minus 7. So here's the factorization. I already showed it was the correct one up here. Then you set each factor equal to 0 and solve. You add 7, divide by 3. Here you just need to add 2. Hope that helps.